Well, good morning. I'll welcome everybody to our November meeting of Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority. I don't have any items. Do we have any citizens to be heard? If not, we have 3 minutes. We've got minutes of our board meeting October 4th and minutes of the Transportation Committee meeting held October 18th and the special board meeting held on October 18th. Any corrections or additions or any questions by any of the trustees? Do we have to approve them one at a time, or? Okay. Then I have a motion to approve A. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Then B, the Transportation Committee held October 18th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And then the special board meeting held October 18th.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Consent docket, we've got 5 items on there. I would like to discuss item D, but do the trustees have any questions on any of the other items? Okay, Jason.
Yes, so item D, this is a resolution authorizing the administrator or designee to have authorization to settle any claims that may be presented to the trust up to $15,000. And so as the trust is aware, it's been our customary practice to bring any claim amounts in excess of $10,000 to the trust, and we typically handle those through an executive session. So what this resolution does is really 2 things. Is it formalizes that authorization and extends it to all of our family of services, so that, bus, streetcar, parking, all of our family of services. And then the second thing it does is it increases that customary amount we've used of $10,000 or more up to $15,000. So if this resolution is approved in the future, the claims that we bring to the trust in an executive session will be only those $15,000 or more.
Okay, and my understanding, legal approved this, and it was kind of legal's idea to.
Yes, it was. Because the previous resolution that had authorized the previous practice that Jason was explaining was actually applicable to the current status, which was in the 1990s, not including streetcar and several of our other increases to the family of services. So this one now involves all of those family services that we currently have.
All right. Well, thank you. Any questions? Then do I have a motion to approve our consent docket?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Our individual consideration is to approve a contract with JRC Property Management for installation and repair of bus stop poles and signs.
Yes, so with approval of this contract, JRC Property Management will continue to maintain our bus stop poles and signs throughout the Embark bus system. As the trust is aware, we have over 1,400 or close to 1,400 bus stop locations through our service area. And each one of those is marked with a bus stop sign, and if there's not a shelter, obviously a pole as well. So you can imagine there's ongoing regular maintenance needed to be able to keep that signage in good working order and to make sure the bus stops are visible. So JRC has provided that service for the last 3 years. Their current contract expired on October 7th. We actually ended up advertising for bids knowing this was coming back in August. We received 2 bids, and the committee evaluated JRC as the best and lowest bid for this project. So with approval, we're looking at estimated cost of about $85,000 annually to maintain our bus stop poles and signs through this contract, and be funded through our transit operating budget.
This doesn't involve the shelters, though. It's just signs.
Yeah, just the signs and the poles. Tyler Media, who we have an agreement with for shelter advertising and maintenance, they're the ones that construct the shelters for us. And they've really, been doing a great job keeping up with the shelters that we've added. As the trust is aware, we've added at least 102 of the new Brasco shelters with the security lighting and such. That number's probably changed a little bit over the last few weeks or last 30 days as we continue to add shelters. But yeah, they're doing, Tyler Media's doing that for us.
Who mows and empties trash?
So we have a combination of how that works. For the majority of the locations, Tyler does that, but we also have staff that also help maintain the bus shelters.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Not, then I'll have a motion to approve item A.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item B, C, and D, Jason's going to kind of discuss all three together, and then we can vote on them.
Yeah, each one of these next three items is really asking the trust to approve a scope of work and then authorize the administrator to advertise for a request for proposal. And so I'll just go through quickly each one of the different services that we're looking to receive proposals on. So the first one, item 6B, this is a RFP for bus, tire, and leasing. Our current contract with Goodyear is set to expire in April of this year. It's been a 5-year contract. And really what we're trying to do here is get well out ahead of this particular procurement, because what we learned last time 5 years ago is that there's quite a bit of analysis that goes into this particular proposal and determining the best proposal moving forward. So we're trying to get out ahead of that. The estimated cost on this is $240,000 a year for our bus tire program, and then of course as we receive the proposal and enter into contract negotiations, we'll be bringing other items back to the board. Item 6C is RFP for pension legal services. We have had a contract in place with Davis, Graham, and Stubbs for a considerable amount of time. That contract expired on October 3rd, and so of course we need to issue a proposal and secure new legal services for the pension. Now, the one thing I'll say is, we don't require legal services for the pension very often. Generally it's just when there's a plan amendment we have to make, or maybe some major changes in IRS rules, we do need those legal services, but it's not like an ongoing thing. So with the contract being expired, that doesn't give us any concern at this point in time, but we do need to get another one in place. And as you can see, the estimated cost with the legal services is about $13,000 annually, and that actually is funded out of the Cotpa pension plan. And then the next item, item 6D, again, this is approving an RFP for legal services related to labor relations support. As the trust is familiar, we've had a long-standing contract with Crowe and Dunlevy going back at least to 2009. The current contract with Crowe and Dunlevy expired on October 3rd. We are working on processing an amendment to extend that contract because we will be needing those services ongoing. But with authorization of this request for proposal, we'll eventually be able to select a long-term provider for those services. Estimated cost about $60,000 a year for these services, but again, it does fluctuate just depending on what comes our way in the area of labor relations.
All right. Any questions on any of those items? Then I'd have a motion to approve item B.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Approve item C.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? And then item D. All in favor? Thank you. Item E is a contract, with 49's Technology for our multimodal transportation technology.
Yeah, so this is an exciting item for us in terms of looking to the future and making sure that we are incorporating the latest transit technology in how we manage our transit operations. This is requesting approval of a one-year contract with a consultant to assist us in really evaluating our current system. As I've mentioned before, identifying where there's gaps in those current systems, what does the marketplace currently have to offer, and really eventually kind of helping us develop, our plan moving forward on what technology do we need to replace or upgrade to keep up with the marketplace and with customer expectations. So again, we're really looking forward to kicking this project off. 4 Nines is a name you probably recognize. We've actually had a contractual relationship with that firm before. They helped us with developing our fare policy and recommendations towards our mobile fare payment app. As you'll recall, we actually advertised for bids or for proposals back in July. Received 2 different proposals. Last month, the board authorized negotiations, and so here we are finalizing a contract for the board, estimated cost of $100,000, and we will be able to pay for some of these expenses from federal grants.
All right. Any questions on that? Barney usually has a question on Wi-Fi or something on the buses, so.
Looks like a good contract.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve? E.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Then item F is the final plans and specifications to advertise for bid for ferry landing and terminal updates, and I guess Jenny's going to give us a presentation on that.
Morning. If you'll recall, Cotpa received a grant. It was a competitive grant through the passenger ferry boat program. They put the offering out every 2 years, and it was been about 4 years ago that we applied and did receive $1.4 million grant for some projects. And the projects were for a pavilion at Meridian Landing, Stockyards Landing, and for some bank stabilization and security at our exchange maintenance facility and exchange landing. So these were the original projects that we put in. Security cameras at the main terminal, we improved that so we can see the parking lot, we can see much more of the area and record activity for the police department. We put security cameras on the vessels to provide some security for the deckhands who are dealing with passengers. And those 2 projects are complete. They were completed last spring. Then the terminal upgrades project is being reevaluated and redesigned. River Park Landing, that bid went out several months ago, and we hope to award that project in the next couple of months. And today we're looking at Meridian Landing. So what we did with the Meridian Landing Pavilion was we used state of good repair funding that we get through a formula grant. So this is money we automatically receive. And coincidentally, it's a little over $400,000, so we thought, let's just do Meridian Landing with that and free up some funding for some of these other projects. The stipulation on the state of good repair, it needs to be rehabilitation or restoration, which fits perfectly with what we're doing at Meridian. So this is Meridian Landing. You can see the Home 2 Suites Hotel there on the left, and the promenade that overlooks the boat dock. There are actually 7 hotels within reach of Meridian Landing, and you'll see our canopy that we have in place to provide protection for riders. Most of our passengers from this area are visitors to Oklahoma City. A lot of them are foreign visitors to Oklahoma City. They recognize the benefits of having a ferry with the low cost and the more pleasant trip into the downtown area, and of course, the Bricktown area as well. So this is the current canopy that we have there. It's reached its useful life. It's been out there more than 10 years. The benches are getting very worn. This was donated to us by USA Shade at one time, and it has been a real lifesaver as far as providing protection. But now that we have some funding to replace it, this is what this project will do. So this is a rendering provided by the architect of the plans and specifications for what we're building with this particular project. It's the center section. It has ample protection for passengers as well as people using the trail systems. This was the original concept. This was developed back in 2010. It had restrooms. It had a much larger pavilion area and some storage. We're just going to be building that middle section, but it gives you an idea of the coloration that's going to be used. It's a metal roof and stone facade. The low walls provide the seating, and then there'll be lighting for security. And that's what I have for you, if you have any questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious, can that facility be used if people are not riding the boat? Say a family wanted to go out and have a picnic under that pavilion?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we anticipate, when I've been out there, I see cars with bike racks, so I know there are people biking along the trails in there, and certainly anyone can use that. The hotel folks, that hotel that was in that photo is Home 2 Suites. It's an extended stay hotel, so there might possibly be families staying while one family member is maybe doing business or something downtown. So that's a long-term stay hotel with, it's really nice. It's got laundry facilities and family kitchen areas and whatnot. And those people could certainly go down there and enjoy the area, the pavilion, and maybe walk the trails.
Jeannie, I was going to ask you, the current pavilion or the canopy has a big sign that says River Cruises on it. Or the new design looks like maybe it's a little bit more subdued and sophisticated, but is there going to be proper signage to lead people to it and can see it from 15th Street?
Yeah, there'll be a sign on 15th Street directing people. We have one out there now, a monument sign that's, again, it's another state of good repair project that we'll be replacing with a much nicer sign that directs people. The idea of the green roof is to make it very visible from Southwest 15th Street. And then in the plans, which I don't know if you're like me, you dig down through those architect's plans, they're in your packet. There's a large wooden circle right at the face of it where we'll be able to put Oklahoma River Cruises on that as well.
Well, I want to publicly thank the river. As I told you, I had the charter cruise for my employees last month, and it was a big hit. And I want to be public that they didn't comp the chairman. So, all right. Any questions? Any other questions? Thank you. Then I would have a motion to approve item F.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next item is our ratification of payroll and vendor claims for October 1st through October 29th. Any questions by any of the trustees? If not, I'd hear a motion to ratify.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, our financial reports, budget to actual for the 3 months ended September 30th. Jason?
Yes, sir. So looking at our budget to actuals, again, through September 30th, this is going to give you a snapshot of how we've done in terms of actual revenues and expenditures compared to what we had budgeted for the first quarter of the fiscal year. And so if you want to turn to page 2 in your budget to actual report, this is where we'll start with the transportation operations budget to actual. And really, if you look at the overall budget in terms of total revenues and total expenditures, we're really in line with what we had projected. Overall revenues are just slightly over by $52,000. Our total expenditures are just under by about $200,000. But I would like to direct your attention to the expenditure section momentarily and have you look at the personal services budget line. As you know, this is this particular line makes up the majority of our budget because this is where all the expenses are budgeted for the personnel costs. And when we look at this budget to actual, typically we'll have quite a bit of savings there. We'll be running under budget because primarily of vacancies. Well, this year, through the first quarter, you can see we are pretty much right on budget with our personal services. And there's a couple of things driving that. One is, as you're aware, we entered into an agreement to provide transit service in Norman. So we have added positions and filled those positions for that additional service. In addition to that, we have been very successful this first quarter in recruiting for Oklahoma City operations. I mean, I think the class we have now in orientation is in the teens. I think it's around 16 or so people. So we've really, I should say, staff, the HR group has done a tremendous job recruiting. So we have a lot more positions filled at this time of the year than we typically do. Now, again, we've got the contract in place with Norman. We have that revenue from the City of Norman committed to supporting those expenses. The next step is now for us to bring a budget amendment to the trust to allow for those extra expenses associated with the service in the City of Norman. So that's kind of the roadmap we're on. I would expect to be bringing a budget amendment to the trust in December. So I know it's a long explanation, but that's a significant part of our budget, and we're typically not this close at this point in the year, so I wanted to run through that. Looking at next page, page 3, this is our parking operations, and again, total revenues are in line with budget. Total expenditures show to be lagging considerably, but again, that's simply a matter of timing with primarily the payments to Republic Parking Services for the contracted services they provide for the parking garages. What you will see in your next budget to actual that we look at is payments for invoices for those Republic services for August and September. So the expenses will be much more in line with budget as we begin moving forward. Going back to the revenues, though, real quick, I did just want to point out that the trend we see in monthly contract, transient, and event revenue we've kind of seen over the last couple months continues, where our monthly contract revenue is coming in less than what we had budgeted, but that shortfall is being more than offset by what we're collecting in transient and event revenue. So overall, our operating income, so revenues in excess of expenditures through the first quarter, is $800,000. And again, just a reminder for the trust that, as you know, we defeased our bonds we had outstanding that were used to build the Arts District garage. We issued new bonds, lesser amount, thereby reducing our debt service. In fact, we're taking our debt service from about $1.4 million down to around $785,000. So considerable savings in debt service. So again, we'll be bringing a budget amendment to the trust to adjust the parking budget to reflect what our actual debt service will be through the rest of the year. Looking on page 4, this is our river cruises operation, and really if you look at the total revenues and total expenditures, they're both in line with what we had budgeted through the first 3 months of the fiscal year. But I do want to direct your attention to the operating income line. So this is our revenues, again, in excess of our expenditures. Notice that we have an overage, or I should say an operating income of $237,000. That is primarily because we've transferred, more than half of the general fund subsidy that supports the river operations during the first part of the year. So just know that as we go through the fiscal year and we begin incurring more expenses, that operating income is going to diminish. And really the same comment for the Spokies operation. We show on the next page, the operating income is just under $100,000. And again, as we pay expenses throughout the year, that operating income is going to decline. And then the last comments I have related to our streetcar operations is again just to direct you to probably the revenue section first. If you look at our total revenues, you'll see that we have a positive variance of $1.2 million, or 191% of the budget. That is all a direct result of the timing of the payment or transfer from the general fund subsidy to support streetcar operations. If you'll notice, the original, or I should say the budgeted amount is about $4.4 million. For budgeting purposes, we look at transferring about a quarter of that, or each quarter. It just so happens that the second quarter transfer actually hit our actuals ledger in September versus October. So it looks a little front-loaded there when you look at the revenue that's coming from the general fund. Looking at the expenditure side, overall expenses are $114,000 over what we had budgeted through 3 months of the fiscal year. And I did want to just point out that if you look at the total expenditure line, it indicates that we're at 98% of the budget. I'm not sure why that number's there, but basically we're in excess. We're over budget, so that should be about 112%. And that's my comments for the financials. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from any of the trustees? Surely the city manager would like to comment. Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Well, good. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve our financial reports?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right. Thank you. Transit system, our reports. We have a transit system report and a streetcar report, and I've added a little parking comments when we get down to Corey. So,
good morning.
morning.
Hope everyone had a great Halloween. You all seem like the type of people that hand out full-size candy bars. I appreciate that. So we'll jump right into the presentation. I've got a bet with Corey that I can get this done in 15 minutes, so we'll see what we do.
I got to bet you can get it done in 10 minutes. No?
I'll try. I don't know if I could do 10. We'll try.
Okay.
So some of you are familiar that we recently had a board meeting that approved our Sspp plan. So as adopted by OKC Streetcar, and so essentially what that does is that puts in place our SMS system, where it's a top-down safety management system. So we've got the 4 pillars there: the safety management policy, safety risk management, safety assurance, and safety promotion. So essentially what that does is it allows us to better outline that and basically Jason, from the top down, make sure that we all follow our safety protocol. But essentially what that means is that we identify a safety hazard, we mitigate it, and then we follow through and make sure that the mitigation solved the safety issue, and then also safety promotion. So we adopted that October, this past month, and so we're going to go through a process of updating that to meet the new federal requirements. We'll be bringing that back to the board in June of 2020, anticipation of meeting the July 20th of 2020 FTA requirement to have that PTASP submitted to the FTA. So you'll be seeing that soon. Oklahoma City Streetcar and Embark attended the 2019 Apta Transform event in New York City. So that's basically like the big conference for public transportation. We go there and we have seminars on safety as always, but then we're also there to see other things like managing curbs, so like managing scooters, those types of things. And then one of my favorite, of course, was the Apta Streetcar Subcommittee. So what was kind of cool about this, over the past 10 years, this committee went from about 5 people to now we're nearly 300 people for the Streetcar Subcommittee. And so while we were there, this gave streetcars all across the country an opportunity, past streetcars, current and future streetcars, to give an update of their system, right? And some of the issues that we're all dealing with and how we've tackled those issues. So it was a great conference and really enjoyed being there. You may recognize somebody from this slide here. Kay was on stage to accept the 2019 Adwill Grand Award for our Streetcar City, Streetcar Safe marketing campaign. So it's about a 2.5-minute video basically outlining how we took the charge of making sure that the information to be streetcar safe, how we got that out into the city and things like that. As always, we continue to do our Love the Loop videos. So I'll take a quick 30 seconds here to show this video. we really love doing those videos, shining a spotlight on local businesses along our loop. We also had our Arts Council OKC Arts Move event with singer-songwriter Isaac McClug there, playing guitar aboard our streetcar during our lunch hours on this 2 weeks ago Monday. Love the events. If you haven't had a chance to get out there during one of these Arts Moves events, it's pretty awesome. Hearing live music on the streetcar is just, it's got good sound quality. It's cool. So we also hosted and participated in the first taproom trek. So basically the streetcar was a way for people that were attending this event to get around to the local breweries. And so we're happy to do that. That's always fun. And then we also participated in the Midtown Walkabout, essentially providing our services as we do for people to get around the area a little quicker and a little faster. Then we also participated in the hashtag I8Oklahoma. So it's a Twitter following. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out. So essentially, he was able to use the streetcar as a progressive dinner type thing. So he would ride the streetcar, go to different restaurants and breweries along the route, and be able to provide reviews of those restaurants and breweries. We also hosted blogger for hashtag I Am Here, Chris Strubb. So he rode the streetcar system and gave his review of the streetcar system, all positive reviews. So we love that. And then we also participated in the Brick or Treat on Monday in Bricktown, again providing our services, getting people to and from the event and quickly through the Bricktown area. And then also this past Tuesday, we hosted, terrible picture, I apologize. We hosted the Greater OKC Chamber. So they had an event where they brought in local developers, and they rode the streetcar, did a complete loop, and while they were riding the streetcar, they were able to see all the ins and outs of Oklahoma City, seeing the downtown area and all the different districts. And you can see here we had Christian playing the piano and Spunk playing the saxophone there. Again, awesome event, having live music on there. And then just really, the event, what was cool is restaurants and stuff, when they host an event, if you're lucky, you've got a rooftop spinning restaurant. Well, we actually take you downtown as just moving around through downtown. We also took this opportunity to test the possibilities of having charters for our streetcars to see how that would kind of play out, and this worked out perfect. We were perfect on time. The event was perfectly timed, right at 45 minutes. So it gave us positive hope in bringing a charter policy to you guys and being able to provide charters with the Oklahoma City streetcar. I wanted to remind everybody, coming up in December 1st through December 8th, we'll be providing our 50% off on Embark passes. So be sure to get your passes the first week of December there. We're going to talk a little bit about ridership. So October was a great month for us also. We're staying right at our average of just above 30,000 riders per month. One thing to point out here, we're still waiting on our ridership data from last night. But what I can tell you is it was over 500. And that puts us over 400,000 riders so far since we began revenue service. So it's a pretty awesome milestone. Again, that is up to excluding last night. So we're a little over 30,000 for the month of October. And then our averages are holding steady. Our average weekday ridership, right around 1,000 to 900. Our average weekend ridership, right around 1,500. How did I do on time? I think I did 10 minutes. That was pretty quick. Any questions? Thank you.
Well, I'd just bring everybody's attention to the summary of service tables. I think you'd want to tout that a little. To fiscal year 18 was 783,000, and we're at 935,000 riders this year. So yeah, that's a dramatic increase.
It's been great. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. What did these nice people on your streetcar subcommittee, what are the top 3 challenges we're facing when it comes to streetcar service?
Right. So some of the things that we saw were, and we'll talk about it some more later, but the cyclist and rail, right? That interface and how to better manage that. Ridership, as always. And then one of the big takeaways that I got from it was the market is seeing just a huge influx or upswing of cost for construction. And so one of the things that we talked about is that's just not sustainable, right? So the cost per mile for construction for streetcar and track. As a market, we're just seeing that that's not sustainable, and we're comparing it to markets overseas, like in Paris and stuff like that. They're able to construct rail much cheaper, and one of the comments was, and they're working 30 hours a week, and they're able to construct it much cheaper. And so we've got to take a look at it globally and see what we can do to get the market back down into the range to where it can encourage construction. Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the charter.
Yep.
Because I think that'd be neat. I'd love to bring all my employees to lunch and have them ride the streetcar all the way around.
Right. So, like I said, we were able to use this chamber event to kind of test the idea of a charter, because not like a party bus or something like that. You can't just kind of pull it off to the side and wait for people to show up. So, if we're doing like a progressive dinner or something like that, we would bring people to that restaurant, drop them off, and then look at our schedules and see, the anticipated time that they want to get back on the streetcar. We have to just make sure that we keep, getting that streetcar into service and being able to maybe use one of our cutaways to take it out of service so that it's still close, things like that, and without interrupting service, because obviously our primary.
And how would somebody pay for that?
That's one of the things we've got to work out.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right.
and the pricing structure and things like that, we're taking looks at other systems. So Cincinnati's got one in place right now. I think they're charging like $1,800 for a charter. So we're taking a look at things to see where we want to price it for Oklahoma City.
That sounds a little high, but
Yes,
that's...
Wow.
Well, I know. Whoa, man.
Yeah, there's a bit of sticker shock with that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our streetcar report. Oh, that was it. Oh, excuse me, yeah. No, parking. Corey was going to give us, how about the train, what? Yeah.
For the record, Jesse's presentation took 7.5 minutes. Looks like I owe him lunch. Good morning, everyone. Brief construction update on our fancy new garage. These pictures are just over 2 weeks. Only a few pictures here. Didn't bore you with everything. We have our drilling rigs that will create the hole for the piers. You see us right now with rebar in a pier getting ready to be poured. We had rain. There's our new convention center lake. But we're right back at work. The piers for where the elevator shaft and main staircase at the southwest corner of the garage, those piers are already done. We're going to build that structure as if it was standalone and then tie it into the garage so that we make sure that the elevators are functional when the garage is opened in October of next year. The Omni has had their meaningful input on the garage design and has approved all of that. Our current construction, substantial completion will be end of October of 2020, and then final completion will be the 1st of December in 2020. Right now, staff is negotiating with Rose Rock. That's the mixed-use apartment retail space to the north of the garage for their long-term parking agreement. We are currently working with other city departments to ensure that the reconstruction of 4th Street, the utilities under it, and the street itself coincide with the garage opening. The garage can function without 4th Street being available, but it will not function properly if we don't have 4th Street available, because Broadway will still be under construction or finishing up when we open up the garage for the convention center due to the Omni work. With that, I gladly answer any questions.
You can't see the finish date, so what's the anticipated completion date?
The substantial completion will be October 30th, 2020.
2020.
Final completion will be December 1st, 2020.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. I'd have a motion to receive our program reports. All in favor? Opposed? Any items from the trustees? Councilman Cooper, Greenwald?
I guess I would say, I said it at council, but it maybe repeat it here. Just thanks to Embark and Cotpa for asking me to join you all in New York for the conference. It's always very educational, and I feel I have better the language to have conversations with my constituents about transportation without sounding like a dum-dum. So I just really appreciate those invites every year. And this one was especially fun being in New York. So thank you all.
All right. Barney, anything? Or nope? Jason?
Yes, sir. Just a couple of quick things. I just want to reiterate, Jesse's point on the board approving our system safety plan. That's a huge milestone for us in terms of preparing for the requirements that the FTA has outlined for us in July of 2020. But a lot of the things that Jesse had kind of shared with you, we are doing now, of course, as a transit agency and in managing safety. But the plan that we're working on will really give us a lot more structure to that. And again, the idea is to drive that safety responsibility, throughout the entire organization. It's not just a safety department responsibility or a director responsibility, but it goes throughout the entire department. So our chief safety officer, Eugene Fritz, and others are heavily involved in that, and it's going to be a very good transformation in terms of how we approach that from a transit agency, and that's the way the industry is going. So we just thank you for the support on that, and bear with us as we continue to bring documents and plans and such for you to review. Also wanted to thank Councilman and Trustee Cooper for inviting us to his town hall meeting last week. It was a great turnout, lots of people there on a cold, rainy night. And lots of folks wanting to talk about transit and Northwest Corridor BRT. So I was able to, again, be fortunate enough to attend. We had some poster boards there with some maps of the routes and just a lot of interaction, a lot of questions, a lot of interest in the project. So it was very encouraging. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for attending, and thank you for reminding me to thank you for that. No, it was really great. And we were talking about it, you and I, yesterday as we were, preparing for today's meeting. Just seeing those people engaged, and thanks for sharing that feedback about how many questions people were asking about it. I began that meeting by, framing BRT as a, kind of looking at our past to kind of create our future. That BRT going along the old streetcar route. I mean, that's really cool, and I've been trying to get Ward 2 to really think about how 23rd Street was the, it's really the gateway to the north side of the city. I mean, that really was, when I was campaigning and talked about Paseo all the time being the first commercial shopping district. Well, it is, and I think that outside of downtown, and I think that with BRT, we're kind of setting the pace, the tone for expansion across the rest of the city and what the next several years are going to look like with transit-oriented development. I mean, seeing the chamber on the streetcar, for instance, right, with developers. I mean, that I'm glad those conversations are happening. I can't wait to see what the Asian district looks like 10 years from now with the BRT going through it. So thanks again for being here.
Well, you're right about 23rd. I mean, you're too young to remember everything, but I mean, that was a hub of retail, Rothschilds and Catherine Lipes and all the stores along. Was it called Uptown? Okay, well, that's where a lot of retail was back then. So, all right. Craig, thank you for coming.
Yes.
Nice to see you. All right. I guess we're adjourned for the meeting. Thank you.